Ridgewood, we are joined this morning by Mrs. Nold. Mrs. Nold, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Good. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Oh, thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. First, if you could tell us a little bit about your career in education and what you currently do and how you got to be where you are, that'd be great.
Okay. I never thought I was going to be a teacher. I think a lot of people probably started that way. When I started college in the 90s, we were in a recession and I knew I had to graduate with a trade. So it was either going to be for me, um, based on my path, a nurse, or which I can't touch my eyeball, so that wouldn't work, or a teacher. And so that's how I started, just thinking that this would be a career that maybe I would have for 3 or 4 years after college. And I wanted to be a biology teacher, not an English teacher. I was very much into the sciences. And then I started to do, I'd always done, but I started to do a lot of outreach where I was working on Indian reservations out in South Dakota. And I started to see the world in a really different way, and how language was really important, and specifically literacy was really, really important. So I guess my sophomore or junior year in college, I decided that I wanted to be an English teacher, which in retrospect was a terrible decision in terms of what jobs were available, because the sciences, especially in the 90s, would have been. But I was very much into literacy, not really being a literature teacher. So I was seeking jobs that were working with disenfranchised youth. And so when I graduated in 1995, I took a position in right outside of Washington, D.C., in a county called Arlington County. And we had a very specific program for kids who'd been in gangs and had been arrested. And most of them had come from Nicaragua or Guatemala, and they'd come here illegally. And we were working with them to get them back into the system. And so it was um, a lockdown facility, and I worked there for 3 years and I loved it. And I would have stayed doing it, but then I got married and I moved back to Charlottesville and then I started teaching mainstream English, and I loved that too. So, and then I still can't believe we live in New Jersey. We hadn't planned on moving up here, but in 2000 we moved up here, and I started working in publishing in the city because I always thought we were going to go back to Charlottesville. I took a leave of absence there, and then I ended up at Ridgewood in 2002. And I don't know, one thing led to another, and then I became an administrator. That's my
Nice.
story. Yeah.
That's great. I
Yeah.
actually I didn't know
Hmm.
that path. As a guidance counselor, hearing that it was not a linear path
Mm-mm.
is always helpful, because people, I think kids sometimes really feel like their path needs to be that linear path. I need to take
Mm-mm.
this step to get to wherever I am or where I want to go. So it's great to hear, that your path kind of had some of those right
Mhm.
turns and left turns, and what a great story.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, really. I mean, and even working in that lockdown facility sounds,
That was amazing.
yeah,
Like, scary. And, I had all of the confidence of someone who had no experience, right? Like unearned confidence, and,
yeah,
lots of life lessons there. So,
yeah. So in just in this crazy time that we're in, how have you been doing, and how's your family doing, and what have you guys maybe been doing as part of the, just kind of holding it all together?
it's funny. I do feel guilty about saying this, but my kids are older. So, Eddie's 19. He was in his first year of college and he came home in March. And then my other two are 16 and 14. So, well, you guys have younger kids, and everybody's always telling you, I'm sure, because people told me when my kids were younger, make sure you savor this time because it goes by very, very quickly. And the days seem long for you guys, I'm sure, because the kids are small. But it does go by very, very fast. And then they're teenagers, and they have their lives, and they don't interact with each other as much, and they don't interact with you because they have lives. And so for us, this has been amazing, to have everybody in the house, and it's we've had a really beautiful experience as a family with it. Every day is something we try to. They always think I'm pregnant, which is funny because I'm always like, I have a surprise for you, and they're like, Are you pregnant? I'm like, No. Are we getting a dog? No, we have two dogs, but it's always something like. We're gonna find the best pizza place in New Jersey. Let's get in the car and we'll drive to the best, and they get to pick it and we eat the pizza in the car. It's like little things that you would do with your kids at your age, that I'm doing with my kids at this age. And it's a stolen time, and I like every morning I wake up and I'm so grateful to have it, even as I'm screaming at them to get up and get on their online classes. I don't know. I'm grateful, even though there's a lot of sadness in the world right now. For me, it's just been really slow, beautiful time. Yeah.
That's special, and yeah, it is. That is a beautiful way of putting it. And no matter how down we all feel at times, it's great to always have hope and look at the positive side of things. So, um, speaking of that, as an administrator, what have you seen out of our staff and our teachers, and
Amazing.
what has the last 6 weeks looked like from your standpoint?
It's just, I'm not a big crier. I'm really not. Like, if you ever see me crying in the building, it's probably because I'm really angry, or like really blown. Like, I'll cry if I'm angry, and I'll cry if I'm just blown away by sort of how beautiful things are every day. Like, I tear up. It just the things that people are doing with their kids. Look, I mean, look at what you guys are doing right now. And look at, like the interactions that they have with the kids, the emails, the videos, like it's we have shifted, and very like I've never seen a shift this fast within any form of my life or any place in my life, and people just did it. It was like, all right, it's March 13th. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Just kidding. Like, it's really incredible because people are having all the right conversations. Like, how do we make sure that the kids are invested? How do we make sure that the kids are doing okay? How do we continue to engage our students? It's just, I think when we look back on this, we're just going to think about how amazing everybody responded to something that we couldn't fathom. So I'm just in tears over it every day.
So in that same regard, I think we've been getting some really great responses from the people that we've been talking about, or talking with rather, when we asked this question. And with for our kids, do you have any thoughts or advice for them? Just general kind of like just a nugget of wisdom for them as we kind of slog through the next however many weeks that we continue to do this.
Yeah, you know what I think is interesting about being a teenager, is you're just getting your life experiences now, right? Like you and I can look back and we can look at the relativity of like, well, we lived through this and we lived through this, and this is a big one. This is something that they're going to compare every aspect of their life to, probably, this time when everything stopped. And so I would say to them, well, first, I think they're responding beautifully, because how many times were we trying to get them off of technology up until like March 13th, right? And I think that they're using it in all the right ways, but I also think that it gave them that moment of like, I really miss being with my friends. Like, I really actually miss being in class with my teachers. But I will say to them, it's hard in the moment, right? Like, you have to sort of mourn the loss. And Miss Pinch has said that so beautifully. Like, you have to mourn the loss. You can't say that this is all great, because it's not. But then what are we getting out of this? It's a way to reimagine everything. It's a way for them to reimagine their friendships, how they feel about school, potentially even like what their goals in life are. We're not talking about ACT scores anymore, or SAT scores, because you know what? That's not a problem. It's gone. We're not talking about anything other than healthcare and taking care of people, and how much we miss people, and taking care of vulnerable people. I don't know. I think when they have the relativity to look back on that, they're going to say this is one of the most powerful things that's happened to them. But in the moment, I still think they're doing a really great job. I'm enjoying the TikToks they're putting on. I love that little video that they did. So keep your chin up. You guys are doing great. And when you're old and gray, you'll be like, wow, 2020, we lived through a pandemic. That was crazy. Yeah.
All right, Mrs. Nold, buckle up. We're going to enter the lightning round here.
Oh, what's the lightning round?
A few rapid questions at you.
Okay, I don't have the questions.
What's
All
the what was the best food in South Dakota when you started out there?
Fried bread.
Fried bread, nice.
That's really good.
The last book that you've finished.
Oh, well, I finished, I'm reading a lot of them, but I just finished Night House, if you want like a guilty pleasure read, and I'm almost done with The Mist by Stephen King.
Favorite television sitcom of all time?
Of all time? 30 Rock.
30 Rock.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite Disney character?
Ooh, I like the villains. Jafar.
Ooh.
Who was your hero growing up and why?
My grandparents. I'd have to say all four of them. Yeah.
And what was the best pizza in New Jersey? You mentioned that before.
You know what? We went to Pizza Town last week, and my kids swore that was the best pizza, but like I'm giving it a 7.5. To be determined. All
right. Yeah. That's fair. That's fair.
That's great, Mr. Nold. We really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us this morning. And I know the kids and the faculty are really going to love this one. So thank you for your advice and your wisdom. And we wish you and your family all the best in the upcoming weeks.
You too.
Definitely. Right. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
All right. Bye.
All right. Bye.